What is going on, guys? This is Happy Camper, and today we are going to do a Planet Coaster time lapse. So right now I'm working on my Six Flags park. Um, I'm gonna do the transfer track slash transfer track building to this ride. I'm calling it Screaming Eagle. It's an RMC. Also, I'm gonna do some little bit of building some buildings of the queue and the front entrance side into this ride. So right now I'm just working on going to build the building. Closing the ride so I can edit the track. Laying down the floor for the building. And I like to make my own separate building all the time for my transfer tracks for roller coasters. It just adds a lot more detail to the rides and their stations. I like to do realistic for my rides and parks. So as many as rides as I can do, I'll do a transfer track and transfer track building for that coaster. And usually I do like a two by how many lengths the track is for the building. And for this was kind of tough because the train track went through the building for this, so I had to make a tunnel for the train to go through, which was kind of difficult, as you can see right here, because it's a curved track. Be a lot more easier if it was straight. I might go back and fix that. I also need to go back and disable the track supports for this part of the track, so it's not going through the building. As you can see right there, it looks a little nasty. And then I'm making a little tunnel for the train to go through. And I wanted to make the walls a little bit higher so I can fit the little shed door for the coaster train. As you can see coming up right here, I usually use this wall to make it look like a shed that can open and close for the trains. I always use that wall. And then I'm adding the roof. Matching the roof color blue to the coaster building station. Closing in the walls for the roof. And this is where I start putting my columns in. Usually with most of my buildings, I like putting columns in to add more details to the building. And that's what I'll do right here. My favorite column to use is this wooden column right here. Wooden beam. And I'll just put it, especially on each corners of the building, I'll definitely put it on the corners. And then sometimes I'll put it on the sides. As I do to this building, I'll put them on the sides. I also need to go back to this building and add some windows to it because I forgot to put some windows onto this building to make it more detailed. Doing it to this side now. Yeah, guys, if you want to see more time lapses of me building this park, just let me know. I mean, I've been working on this park for a while. I might have built all the roller coasters I'll put in the park. Maybe I might add another roller coaster. We'll see. But I'm almost like built all the roller coasters in the park. If you guys don't know, I am making a Six Flags park based off in Utah, and it would be Six Flags' newest park. So right now I'm actually building the transfer track. I usually use this iron bar. It works perfectly for the transfer track. I usually do about 3 to 4 bars. And I'll connect them up to add the most support to them. Gotta make sure they're not clipping through. I copy and paste it to the other side. And then I add supports because everything needs supports. And then what I'm doing right now is doing a little catwalk for the transfer track for the maintenance guys to when they actually do the transfer track, they have a panel and somewhere to walk on. So this sci-fi little catwalk does perfectly for that. As you see, it's clipping to the wall to that building, so I had to move it in a little bit so it's not clipping through. And of course you want to have some railings for safety. I had to find a more smaller fence for this side. And then I try to find a panel for the sci-fi. This panel works perfectly for just for aesthetics. It looks like it's a panel that maintenance users would use to actually transfer the track. So I like putting it right there. Works perfectly. And then at this moment, I am building a catwalk for the actual track because I do not want supports for this track as there is a transfer track, so that takes away the catwalk. So I built my own catwalk for this section. I did an alright job. I mean, you could tell a difference between the actual default catwalk and the catwalk I built, but it does the job. And at this moment, I realized that the iron bars from the transfer track are clipping through the catwalk. So later on, I go and fix that and make sure it's not clipping through. Right now, I'm going to make the railing for the catwalk. Leave a comment below if you'd rather prefer these time-lapse videos or just live streams. Because I've been debating on which I should do. This is my first try at time-lapsing, and it's going out pretty well, but let me know what you guys think, if you prefer the time lapses or the just live streaming, me building the park. And then this is where I go through and make sure the bars aren't clipping through the catwalk. And yeah, there's the catwalk all finished. And then I put a maintenance door to this building for the maintenance guys to go through. And then I put in a ride cubby for the guests to put in while they're riding the ride. I usually just use this theme kit tool item. Sorry, I can't talk. And it works perfectly. And now I start on putting some buildings onto the queue. For queues, I like to do cattle pens, and I like to put a roof over it for those hot sunny days. You know, people don't want to be standing in line in the hot sun, so I like to put a roof over them for when they're waiting in line. And this is what I usually do with my queues and exit. I usually put walls around it too, because I don't like the default supports that the game gives us. So I just put a building walls around it, as you can see here. And then as you can see here, I might fix the queue at this point, because it's going to be hard to build walls around that elevated part of the queue because it's not actually in the grid. So I might go back later and fix that. Yeah, because I don't like how it's just the elevated path is just open like that. And then I add, of course, more columns because it adds a lot more detail to the buildings. And more supports for the roof. You know, you can never have enough supports to your buildings. Enough columns too. The more there is, the more detailed your buildings are going to be. And I always have this trouble too with the columns that it never wants to line up with the actual building, so you have to make sure it's just right so it's not clipping through the building. And then I start to add the roof, of course, add the blue to it to match the station building. You know, with your queues, you always have to have something. At least if you have a cattle pin, I love to have something at least covering them, the guest in shade. because no one wants to stand out and wait in the heat. And at this moment, I realized that both of the sides of the roofs aren't actually the same level, so I had to go back and delete this whole side and make sure it was actually level with the other side of the roof. And then I make the columns go higher, that it's actually connecting to the roof. And then I had this problem, so I had to improvise, so it's actually touching the roof. And then I noticed that last part of the queue wasn't covered, so I added more to this roof so they were actually covered in line. And I did that to the other side of the building just to even it out. And yeah, that's the building right there. Still got a little bit more to do to that. And then I go on to make the sign of the building. I mean, the sign of the ride, sorry. And I went with this Western sign. Usually I always go with Western signs because I got a big variety of signs that you can choose from. And I went with this sign, just a simple sign with a few supports. Of course, went with the same beams because I love these beams. Then I found this eagle statue on the workshop, and it looks pretty good because it's an eagle. Wanted to have something eagleistic. I don't know what I just said, but then I found this, but I realized that it was way too big for my liking. So I didn't do that, and then I just went on to put some flowers around the side. I like to put flowers all over my signs. It just adds a lot more detail and love it. And I went with the red and blue because it's an eagle, represents America. And I still got a lot to do with this ride, but with this episode, that's about it. Thank you guys.